The redistricting showdown. The state of Texas is appealing tonight to the U.S. Supreme Court after federal judges blocked the state from using a newly drawn congressional map we've all heard about, citing evidence of racial gerrymandering. If you want to talk about the ruling as it stands, take a good look here. Texas would be forced to use the map that you see right here. This one, just so you know, was drawn back in 2021, and it was drawn then for this year's, next year's elections. And with that, Ion Politics reporter Jack Fink, we welcome you in tonight. It's always wonderful to see you.
Good to see you.
Talk to us all tonight about how this changes plans now for candidates all across the state.
Well, especially Democrats, Doug, and that's because they are so happy and relieved tonight. And this is all because the newly drawn maps approved by Republicans who stood to gain 5 seats here in Texas, the Democrats were basically facing a game of political musical chairs. Some were set to retire, others were set to primary each other. Now that doesn't have to happen. So 2 federal judges blocked the use of the newly drawn maps in next year's midterm elections and said in the ruling, quote, substantial evidence shows that Texas racially gerrymandered the 2025 map, which is illegal. They also cited a U.S. Department of Justice letter to Governor Greg Abbott from July about 4 coalition districts made up of blacks and Latinos, saying, quote, DOJ threatened legal action if Texas didn't immediately dismantle and redraw these districts, a threat based on their racial makeup. It goes on to say, notably, that the DOJ letter targeted only majority non-white districts. Any mention of majority white districts, which DOJ presumably would have also targeted if its aims were partisan rather than racial, was conspicuously absent. And while the judges temporarily blocked the new maps, there will still be a trial on them eventually. Now, in a statement today, Governor Greg Abbott slammed the judge's decision, calling it, quote, clearly erroneous and undermines the authority that the U.S. Constitution assigns to the Texas legislature by imposing a different map by judicial edict. The state of Texas will swiftly appeal to the United States Supreme Court, and in fact, the state did file its appeal to the highest court late this afternoon. We spoke with Democratic members of Congress from North Texas.
I totally agree with the court. You know, what the Republicans and Greg Abbott did in Texas to seeking to disenfranchise voters of color was egregious, and the court clearly agreed with that. This opinion is sharp, and it is clear, and it is concise.
But I feel like we're on good legal grounds here. And so I feel confident, but, you know, I'm going to be, again, cautiously optimistic in watching what the Supreme Court says.
Now, we also spoke with Republicans tonight who called the judge's decision wrong, and they're putting their faith in the U.S. Supreme Court.
My view is similar to Governor Abbott and Attorney General Paxton, who have criticized the decision because, in fact, race was not used to draw these lines. Only politics was used, which is the appropriate standard.
Quite simply, this is a partisan map that draws more Republican seats, and that's why we're going to win. That is why we're going to be victorious in this appeal before the Supreme Court.
Now, aside from the 2 judges who ruled today, Doug, there is another judge on this panel, and he disagreed with the other 2, and we are still waiting to see what his dissent is.
Kind of begs the question, maybe you're thinking this, sitting here watching this at the same time. What are the Democratic members of Congress from North Texas going to do now?
Well, I spoke with Congresswoman Julie Johnson of Farmers Branch and Congressman Mark Vesey of Fort Worth, as you saw, and they say they're going to vote in their existing congressional districts that they represent now. Now, as far as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, she told me today she still hasn't decided whether she's going to run for re-election in her congressional district in Dallas or if she's going to go run statewide for the U.S. Senate. She said she is waiting for polling to come back and hopes to make a decision by Thanksgiving. The key, she said, is if the polling shows that she can beat a Republican candidate in the general election next November.
At the end of the day, if the numbers are strong, that I am our best shot, then it's bigger than my district. It's bigger than the state of Texas. This is about the country, because we know if we can change the Senate map in this country, then that's where we start to get wins.
And Crockett said that the only way she or another Democrat can win is if they attract new voters, people who haven't gone to the polls before, not simply by Republicans crossing over the political aisle. And Doug, Thanksgiving is next week.
Things can change just like that, man.
Definitely.
All right. Great explanation, Jack. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you as always.